Hello, everybody. All right. Well, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Thursday, October the 30th. We're just one day away from Halloween, also through the rest of the month. So hopefully everybody's having a good week. Hopefully, for those of you who have kids, hope you guys will be planning a safe Halloween with your kids. They say that children are, a precious commodity, to say the least. So we're gonna give people a chance to come in before we get started. So hopefully everybody's had a good week. Let me see now. All right, so there we go with that. All right. A friendly reminder to everybody, of course, on both my Rumble and the YouTube channels. If you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Let's see, we got coming up on 2 minutes here. We'll again give it a little bit more time before we get started. Yeah, so basically, let me see. So, well, I'll talk a little bit more about the. Well, I guess I'll just go ahead and get started here, just because I'm, you know, so basically, tonight we're gonna go over a couple articles, one from Bounding into Comics and one from Bleeding Fool, or not Bleeding Fool, Me TV Tunes. So the first article we're gonna talk about is looking back at some of Superman's enemies, some of his rogues. Um, So we'll look at that. Well, and also, of course, it just seems like every year, earlier and earlier, people are getting into the Christmas spirit. Apparently, as Me TV Tunes has already getting into the holiday spirit with some classic with some classic Christmas specials. So we'll talk about that. Also, we'll get all caught up in all the latest in terms of the world of professional wrestling, the wrestling wrap up of with all the latest in WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, TNA. Looking back to last night's Dynamite, looking ahead to tonight, possible Impact and Ring of Honor shows. WWE is also still, will be building towards Saturday night's main event as well. So, and then we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So, why don't we go ahead and get started here? Let me go ahead and pull up. Let me go ahead and pull up the article tonight here. First article of the evening here. All right, so here we go. We're gonna get started a little early here. All right, so friendly reminder as well, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's get going on to this first article here. From General Zod to Bizarro, here are the 6 most misunderstood Superman villains. Article by Billy Od- Oduori, published yesterday. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. All right, so Superman is approaching his 90th anniversary. So remember, he came into existence with Action Comics #1, cover date June of 1938. Action Comics #1 in June of 1938, cover dated. On sale day, I believe, was April of 1938. So, as one of the best superheroes ever created, however, it is a Man of Steel's wide variety of enemies that has kept the character relevant over the years, because the greatest heroes have to defeat the most powerful antagonist. And we've seen some of those, including Lex Luthor, Brainiac, Darkseid, Doomsday, among others. Mongol, you know. So. Whether it is genocidal intergalactic tyrants or twisted humans, Superman's Rogues Gallery boasts of one of the most evil combinations of characters in comic history. Unfortunately, with most people only focusing on Superman's success, the villains are often dismissed as agents of evil, with little thought given to their grievance. Years of expansion have produced a wholesome picture of most of Superman's classic villains, and these are the ones most audiences still misinterpret. All right, so I'm going to go off camera here for a quick moment. I got to go off camera, but I will be right back. But what I will do here is I will entertain. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back now, so let's continue on with the article here. All right, so let's see. Oh yeah, General Zod. Kneel before Zod is delivered by the late great. Well, I don't know if he's passed away already, but by Terrence Stamp. Let me check something here real quick. Terrence Stamp, of course, was the actor who originally portrayed General Zod in the Superman movie from back in 1978. Let me see if he is actually still alive. Because I was about to say the late great, but I think he's still alive, so that wouldn't make him late. Oh, actually, he did pass. He passed away this year, back in August. Yes, he portrayed General Zod. So, as portrayed by the late great Terrence Stamp in the first two Superman movies. Um, let's see what they have to say about him being misinterpreted. So, introduced in 1961, Drew Zod. So, um, Drew Zod. So, in the comics, he was introduced in 1961. Remains one of the greatest Kryptonian threats that Superman has ever faced. Zod is always looking to conquer and have everything under his control. The crime for which he was imprisoned in the Phantom Zone in the first place. However, behind that angry face that hates everything about Superman and the House of El is a loyal general and seasoned military strategist who really loves Krypton. General Zod's greatest ambition is to restore Krypton to its former glory, even if it means recreating it on another planet. Zod is also interested in saving and preserving his species, which has always been in danger of extinction since the destruction of their home planet. Going around conquering other planets in the hope of minting them into Krypton is clearly the wrong way to go about it. But if Superman ever needed someone who would do anything to preserve Kryptonians, then Zod would make a great ally. So basically, the whole gist between Zod and Superman, of course, and Clark is that just it's more in the they basically have the same goals, just different methodologies about it. In terms of wanting to preserve Krypton and Kryptonians. Superman would be preferred to do it in a more peaceful manner, whereas Zod would just want to conquer the world and just terraform it, basically, both culturally and physically. So, Bloodsport, Robert Dubois. Now this is one haven't really heard of. I think we've seen him he had a couple cameo appearances in Justice League Unlimited. But other than that, but with a name like Bloodsport, that's why you wouldn't see him a whole lot in cartoons as much. So James Gunn turned Robert Dubois, a previously obscure figure, into one of the most popular anti-heroes in the DC universe, with his version of the character played by Idris Elba in the Suicide Squad. Before this new appearance, Dubois was nothing more than a minor villain famous for shooting kryptonite needles at Superman. Dubois was never a hero from the beginning, but he wasn't a genocidal maniac either. In the comics, Dubois flees to Canada to avoid his conscription into the Vietnam War. For those of you who don't know what conscription is, that's basically the draft. When they try to draft you into the army. That's what conscription is. And only starts killing people after Lex Luthor's agents manipulate him. His struggles with mental health made him vulnerable, and Luthor took advantage of it. Otherwise, Bloodsport is just a little man who would rather hide and live out his days in peace rather than kill people, let alone take on Superman. So Bloodsport, maybe somebody is just mentally just not completely there, easily manipulated, and it's kind of funny because we have another villain here that is kind of in that same boat to a certain degree. Well, depending on which version, anyways. Bizarro. Bizarro, of course, in the cartoons, like in Super Friends cartoon, he was portrayed primarily by William Calloway. I think up until Galactic Guardian, and then they did bring somebody else in. In the DCAU, Bizarro as being presented more as a clone of Superman, was of course voiced by originally Tim Daly, of course, in the Superman the animated series, and then when they changed to George Newbern for Unlimited, he would. So he is an imperfect clone of Superman that is more tragic than evil. As the real villains often exploit his weaknesses to use his powers for their evil ambitions. There are multiple iterations of the character in the DC universe with differing origins, although the most popular one is Bizarro number 1, the clone created when Lex Luthor used a duplication ray on Superman, resulting in a mentally backward version of the Man of Steel. He has no understanding of the difference between good and evil, so whatever he does under Luthor's orders doesn't reflect his true intentions. At his core, Bizarro actually tries to be a hero and even help people. Now, that's probably a little bit more the more modern version of him. Like in Super Friends, he was actually depicted as somebody who actually was evil, but just because he was everything, he was the opposite of Superman. Basically, everything Superman was, he was the exact opposite. You see him more as just kind of a twisted individual, more in like in his depiction in Galactic Guardians, as well as his depiction in the DCAU. I mean, this depiction right here they're talking about is what they did with the DCAU, of course, Bruce Timm's universe. But in a world where he can't fit in, and with villains trying to exploit his powers, he ends up becoming the mirror image of what an evil Superman would look like. The Eradicator. The Eradicator. The Eradicator is another major threat from Krypton that most fans don't understand. The being was programmed by Kryptonian scientists to preserve and protect the planet's DNA and ideals. While the planet was destroyed, the Eradicator's mission wasn't, leaving the creation to roam in space for years, finding itself on Earth, where he tried to accomplish the mission of its creators. If Superman were on Krypton at the height of the planet's power, he would probably embrace the Eradicator. Unfortunately, their relationship is now a constant battle between ideology and basically somewhat similar to what they were talking about with General Zod, too. The Eradicator and General Zod, again, kind of have similar goals of trying to preserve Krypton. Their means by which they're doing it, though, are just not considered, likable, for lack of a better term. So again, friendly reminder to everybody, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. This goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. So, anyways, let's see. If harnessed properly, the Eradicator could equally turn into the protector of humanity and be a strong ally to Superman. Mr. Mix Yes Spitlick. This guy's kind of gone through some changes over the years, going from an annoying kind of extra dimensional prankster to and back and all that. Let's talk about Mr. Mix Yes Spitlick here. If he becomes totally evil, Mr. Mix Yes Spitlick could become the deadliest villain in the DC Comics universe. In DC Comics, which is true because he has the kind of warp altering powers that theoretically Mr. Mix Yes Spitlick could quite literally recreate. He could do the one thing that that Darkseid's been trying to do for years, and just totally recreate the universe, since there seems to be virtually no limit to his powers. However, the stubby imp from the fifth dimension is really just a prankster and takes no pleasure in being evil. He sees existence as a playground. As far as the imp is concerned, his omnipotence is too boring without a being powerful enough to challenge him. Yeah, I mean, he's more playful and he's more of a pest than anything else. He and Batmite come from the same place basically, and they're both just more pests than anything else. You know, hence his obsession with bugging the Man of Steel. The best version of the character is from the Silver Age, where he isn't portrayed as dark and edgy, choosing to make fun and appear more as a curious visitor to Superman's world. Now, yeah, the Silver Age version, that's the one I think most fans are familiar with. He's kind of got the yellow jumpsuit with you got the yellow and purple bodysuit with the purple top hat, the purple gloves, purple boots, and and yellow bodysuit there. Um, let's see. He tricks. His tricks lead to unforeseen consequences. Sometimes, such as when he gave his powers to the Joker, almost leading to the wiping out of all reality. Yeah, probably not a bright idea to give near omnipotent godlike powers to a homicidal maniac. Otherwise, Mixie is only out to find some fun and make friends. Despite having the power to conquer dimensions and probably destroy Superman, Mixie always sets limits for himself, allowing Superman to defeat him each time. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know if the one limit we know of, basically getting, I don't know if that's self-imposed or not, but basically, if you can get him to say his name backwards, then you can send him back to the fifth dimension for like 90 days. Silver Banshee, Shiaban McDougal. An Irish lass, nonetheless. Let's see. The two versions of Silver Banshee that appear in DC Comics are both examples of innocent young girls who find themselves on the wrong side of a family curse. Shiaban McDougal's descent into villainy only happens because her brother interrupts the traditional ritual, putting her under the control of the evil crone. The only reason she fights Superman is that she is on a mission to find her father's books and lift her curse. Silver Banshee's range of powers proves destructive to both Superman and the larger metropolis. Although she doesn't personally intend to hurt people, without the curse, Shiaban McDougal is just a young woman looking to take her rightful place as ruler of her clan, and doesn't intend harm to Superman or anyone else. For that matter, modern DC Comics have since completed her redemption arc, although she often still falls victim to compulsion as her powers are misused by other villains. All right, so there we go with that one. Again, feel free. Oh, hey there, Fichozo. Thanks for popping in. If you haven't already, you can help out by liking and sharing the stream. see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, let's move on to the next article. As the next article we're going to go ahead and do will be from MeTV Tunes. As their latest scheduling coming up for November and December here. And this is kind of what I alluded to earlier. Join MeTV Tunes for 'Tis the Season for Tunes. So, as I was saying earlier, it does seem like a lot of, it seems like across the board, everybody's just trying to get Christmas to come even faster. I think it would be okay for most people if Christmas kind of started just after Thanksgiving. But, we're already we're getting a mix of not just the Christmas holiday movies here, but we'll be getting a mix of, we'll actually be getting some Thanksgiving movies in there too. So, Thanksgiving specials. So, that's at least a positive here for this time around. But let's get into this article. So, join me, TV Tunes, for 'Tis the Season for Tunes. Ho, ho, ho! We've doubled the cartoon Christmas year. Of course, doubled it by going 2 months instead of just the one. Article published today by MeTV Tunes staff. So, let's see what they have to say here. So, it's time to celebrate the holidays with MeTV Tunes. Halloween is over, and while we are very excited about Thanksgiving, it's the holiday season that we all really look forward to. Last year we showed you holiday cartoons every Saturday, but this year we are showing cartoons both Saturday and Sunday every weekend leading up to Christmas. So for the next 2 months here, they're going to be showing Christmas movies Saturday and Sunday, evenings, afternoons, depending upon where you're at. Beginning November 1st, so this Saturday, we will be airing your favorite holiday-themed cartoons. 'Tis the Season for Tunes will begin Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, and Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central. So on Saturdays, they'll take over the timing spot for a couple hours. That usually goes to like Yogi Bear and Huckleberry Hound Show and the Jetsons and Flintstones. And then the Sunday, that 2-hour block that usually is taken up by the Smurfs, Top Cat, and of course another Hanna-Barbera hour of Miguel Gorilla and Peter Potamus. Anyways, that's not all. We also have Thanksgiving and Black Friday specials coming up. Keep your eyes peeled on the site for more information about those holiday specials as well. Yeah, I remember last year their Black Friday special was no turkey, rabbit, duck, and no turkey thing, or where they did just a whole bunch of the classic black and white Looney Tunes cartoons. So here's what you can look forward to. So this is the lineup that they're showing us here. Starting this Saturday. Saturday, November 1st, coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific. The Thanksgiving that's this Saturday, the 1st. A talking squirrel must save the first Thanksgiving by finding two missing boys. And following that at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific, a Flintstone Christmas Carol, where of course the classic the Flintstones take on the classic Charles Dickens tale of a Christmas The Bedrock Community Players put on a production of A Christmas Carol, and Fred lets his lead role of Ebenezer Scrooge go to his head and becomes a bit of a Scrooge himself. Yeah, that was kind of a funny dingo. Then Sunday, November the 2nd, starting at, of course, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. And this Sunday, the 2nd, they're going to be doing a whole bunch of Dr. Seuss stuff as we get Horton Hears a Who, the classic Dr. Seuss story adapted into a. And now, mind you, we just read an article. What was it, yesterday or the day before, about Dr. Seuss and Chuck Jones working together for How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So, but anyways, the classic Dr. Seuss story adapted into a cartoon special by Chuck Jones. Horton Hears a Who on a dust speck. And must protect the dust speck from other animals in the jungle. Then following at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Central, 2:30 Pacific, Dr. Seuss on the Loose. This Dr. Seuss cartoon is a mashup of Green Eggs and Ham and the Sneetches. Then following that at 6 Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, Dr. Seuss, The Lorax, the story of the Lorax, who speaks for the trees, and the Onceler, who regrets chopping them down. Then at 6:30, then following that at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific, Daisy Head Maisie. A daisy grows out of Maisie's head, and the Cat in the Hat helps her find her way back home. And then following at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific, Dr. Seuss, the Hoober Boob Highway. So some of these I've never even heard of before. So these could be just animated. They might be newer animated specials, or maybe older ones that just didn't get shown as often. But the Hooba Bloob Highway, a cartoon that explains where babies come from. They've sent from space down the Hoober Bloob Highway to their families. All right, that's a new one. Usually cartoons depict the stork bringing babies, but I guess in Dr. Seuss's world, it's the Hooba Bloob Highway. And then at 7:30 Eastern this Sunday, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific, Dr. Seuss, The Cat in the Hat, voice acting legend Daws Butler, known of course for Yogi Bear, Snagglepuss, Huckleberry Hound, among many other Hanna-Barbera characters, as well as of course Smedley from Woody Woodpecker or from Chilly Willy. Brings the Cat in the Hat to life. The Cat in the Hat helps Sally and Conrad have fun while their mother is out. Yeah, so, and then moving on to Saturday, November 8th. So that's a week from this Saturday. Here's, of course, what that will entail. So at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific on Saturday, November 8th, Yogi's First Christmas. Yogi, Boo Boo, and Cindy wake up early from hibernation and experience Christmas for the first time. Again, one of my all-time favorite, probably my all-time favorite Christmas special. Of course, this November 26th, 2025, will mark the 45th anniversary of the premiere of Yogi's First Christmas. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of fanfare for that. Actually, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. So I'm going to put some music on while I'm gone here. So let me just do that, and then I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, so let's continue on with the article here. Let's see now. So then on Sunday, November 9th, starting at, of course, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific, The Little Troll Prince. In a world where trolls live high in the mountains because they're scared of Christmas, a troll named Boo leaves his castle and comes down mountain to learn about the holiday. And following that at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, the Smurfs, It's a Smurfy Life, The Abominable Snow Beast, Journey to the Center of the Smurf, a series of festive winter wonderful episodes of the Smurfs. We will follow these episodes with 'Tis the Season to be Smurfy and the Smurfs. So basically, a lot of the Christmas, the Smurfs Christmas episode, wintry for that timing, for those 2 hours. Of course, 'Tis the Season to be Smurfy and the Smurfs were classics back in the 80s as well. Then following the following weekend, Saturday, November 15th, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, A Flintstones Christmas. Fred is chosen to play Santa for the Bedrock Children's Orphanage, and he does such a good job. He is asked to step in for the real Santa, who is sick and can't deliver. Of course, this is one of the many appearances of Hal Smith as the voice of Santa Claus throughout the years. Also from the Yogi's first Christmas as well. Hal Smith, of course, probably his two most well-known roles in animation stories. Of course, he portrayed Santa Claus in a number of Christmas specials, but also for those who are into like the Christian radio program Adventures in Odyssey from Focus on the Family, he was the voice for a long time of John Avery Whitaker in that. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central on Saturday, November 15th, A Flintstone Family Christmas. Pebbles, Bam Bam, and their kids are delayed in coming home for Christmas when Fred and Wilma meet an abandoned child, Stony. This is, of course, Flintstone's Family Christmas. I think 1993 was when that one came out. And decide to take him in for the holidays. And then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific, Yogi's All-Star Christmas Caper from back in 1982. Yogi Bear and Boo Boo escape Jellystone and hide out in a department store disguised as Santa. While playing Santa, Yogi meets a little girl named Judy who needs his help believing in Christmas again. Yeah, the Yogi Bear All-Star. Basically, you had appearances from many of the big Hanna-Barbera stars. Even Fred and Barney got into the act for that one. And then we get to Sunday, November 16th, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. The Flintstones, Christmas Flintstone. Fred works at Macy Rocks as a mall Santa and is recruited to fill in for the real Santa. Now, this was an actual Flintstones episode from, I think it was back in, I believe it was 1964 that this particular episode aired. So that's, you still had the late, great Alan Reed at the point doing Fred's voice at that point. Then at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Central, 2:30 Pacific, Cave Kids Christmas. Now, Cave Kids was a brief animated series back, I believe, in 1986, focusing in on Pebbles and Bam Bam as school-age kids. Pebbles and Bam Bam, unlike their previous teen versions and the Pebbles and Bam Bam show back in the early 70s, Pebbles and Bam Bam visit the North Pole to learn the true meaning of Christmas. Then following that at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, Yo Yogi, There's No Business Like Snow Business. Now, this is an episode from the Yo Yogi series of the early 90s. Yogi and friends have to stop the abominable snow dude from scaring skiers. Then at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific on Sunday, November 16th, Christmas comes to Pac-Land. Pac-Man and his friends save Christmas from the ghosts who have crashed Santa's sleigh. Then at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, Sonic Christmas Blast. Sonic and his friends must save Christmas after Dr. Robotnik has kidnapped Santa Claus. Then finishing that block off for that day, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific. Tasmania, No Time for Christmas. Taz puts on a Santa suit and spreads Christmas cheer all over Tasmania. That was, of course, a Tasmania special from, again, or episode of Tasmania from back in the 90s there, I believe. Then the following Saturday, November 22nd, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, of course. I guess I didn't click back to the comment section there. So then you get on Saturday, November 22nd, starting at 7 p.m. In this case, they're starting actually a little later, it looks like. Instead of starting at 6 p.m., they're starting at 7 p.m. on that day. 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific. Casper's First Christmas, where of course Yogi, Boo Boo, Huckleberry Hound, and more Hanna-Barbera characters get lost and decide to spend Christmas by visiting Casper, the friendly ghost. But soon they encounter a not-so-friendly ghost. Now, Casper's First Christmas, of course, was a co-production of Hanna-Barbera and Harvey Toons. So interesting little crossover there. And then at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific, A Christmas Story from 1972. Little Timmy's letter to Santa never got mailed, so his dog, Goober, and the friendly mouse, Gumdrop, go on a journey to the North Pole to deliver his letter. So that sounds fun. Then on Sunday, November 23rd, starting at 5, then you start getting some of the repeats here. 5 p.m. you have a repeat of the Thanksgiving that almost wasn't, of course, with that the Sunday just prior to Thanksgiving. Yogi's All-Star Comedy Caper at 5:30, and then at 6, Yogi's First Christmas. Then on Saturday, November 29th, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific. A Christmas Carol, 1971, the Academy Award-winning cartoon retells the classic Dickens story produced. There's a Chuck Jones production in 1971, followed by at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, 2:30 Pacific, the Little Rascals Christmas Special. And a Christmas special of the Little Rascals featured 2 of the original Little Rascals playing the grown-ups, Darla Hood and Stymie Beard. Then on Saturday the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, The Town That Santa Forgot, which I believe came out in the 90s as well. Believe that was 91, I believe. Narrated by Dick Van Dyke. This Christmas cartoon shows Santa deciding to teach a boy the true meaning of Christmas. The true meaning of Christmas is bringing joy to others by giving the boys Christmas gifts to children in need. And then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific, The Jetsons, A Jetsons Christmas Carol, which was an episode of the Jetsons rebooted series in the 80s there. Mr. Spacely plays the role of Mr. Scrooge, and the Jetsons are the Cratchits. Astor swallows one of Mr. Spacely's sprockets and becomes very sick when Mr. Spacely shows no sympathy for the Jetsons or Astro. He is visited by 3 futuristic ghosts, and it's kind of interesting. The 3 ghosts are all variations of technology, some past technology, present technology, and future technology of the time. And then Sunday, November 30th, we get some more reruns here of A Flintstone Christmas Carol at 5 Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific, followed at 6:30 Eastern by Flintstones Family Christmas. And, again, Flintstones rule the day, A Flintstones Christmas at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then on Saturday, December 6th, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, A Miser Brothers Christmas. The feuding Heat Miser and Snow Miser must work together to rescue Santa from the North Wind. It sounds like kind of an offshoot of the Rankin Bass Christmas specials right there. Then at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific, The Story of Santa Claus. Nicholas, so this sounds a little bit like, I don't know if these are the Rankin Bass specials or just newer productions of the same stories. Nicholas Claus and his wife are shipwrecked. Yeah, okay, so are shipwrecked in the North Pole and are given one wish by the elves. They decide to build a toy shop. Yeah, so this is a new thing altogether. This isn't the Rankin Bass stuff. And give every child in the world a toy. Then on Sunday, December 7th, on Sunday, December 7th, starting at 5 p.m., you got Inspector Gadget saves Christmas. Dr. Claw has hypnotized Santa's elves to work for MAD, M-A-D, and imprisoned Santa. Gadget's mission is to save Santa and Christmas itself. Follow that up at 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central, 2:30 Pacific with Inspector Gadget in Wonderland. I believe that was the first episode of Inspector Gadget. Gadget attends the Winter Olympics where Dr. Claw attempts to sabotage the games by replacing the torchbearer. Then at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, you get the Cabbage Kids Christmas special. The Cabbage Patch Kids go to the big city so that they can find the Christmas spirit. Follow that up at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific. The Puppy Who Wanted to Be a Boy, a heartwarming classic from Ruby Spears, where Petey the puppy wishes to be adopted, or wanted a boy, okay, by a boy for Christmas. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific on Sunday the 7th, Christmas Cartoon All Stars. Basically, the Cartoon All Stars block with just focusing on Christmas shorts. Then Sunday, December 13th, and of course 6 p.m. or Saturday, December 13th, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central. This is the day they're going to focus on a lot of the Scooby-Doo specials, including of course That Snow Ghost, the Nutcracker Scoob, the Night of the Living Toys, the South Pole Vault, and the Pup Named Scooby-Doo special, Snow Place Like Home. Then Sunday, December 14th, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, The Stingiest Man in Town, a classic Rankin Bass musical version of A Christmas Carol. Then at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, Oliver and the Artful Dodger, a Hanna-Barbera sequel to Dickens' Oliver Twist. Then you got the rerun of the 1971 A Christmas Carol and Chuck Jones's special at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Then on Saturday, December 20th, the Saturday before Christmas, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, a very Bugs Bunny Christmas, a cozy collection of holiday and winter-themed Looney Tunes shorts, followed by Christmas Cartoon All-Stars at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 5 Pacific, and then finally on Sunday, November 21st, the Sunday before Christmas, got a rerun of The Story of Santa Claus, Casper's First Christmas, the town that Santa forgot, and The Miser Brother Christmas. So that's what you have to look forward to if you have MeTV Tunes over the next couple of months here of Christmas specials on the weekends. So, as I did mention earlier, of course, coming up this November 26th will be the 45th anniversary of the premiere of Yogi's First Christmas. So that will be exciting. There should be some fanfare there. All right, so we're coming up on an hour here, so I'll try to get through the wrestling wrap-up, get through the final parts of the show in quick time here. So now we're going to move on to the wrestling wrap up, and we're going to look back to last night's AW. Actually, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment, one more time here. I'll put the music on while I'm gone, and then I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happened on last night's Dynamite. As of course, AEW does have some specials coming up in the next few weeks, including, of course, Blood and Guts. I think coming up in a couple weeks here. But right now, let's take a look back at last night's Dynamite. As last night's Dynamite came from the Burt Ogden Arena in Edinburgh, Texas, with, of course, Bryan Danielson and Excalibur on commentary, with Stokely coming in for one of the matches. The opening match on a Trick or Treat Tornado Tag Team match, Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy defeated the Death Riders duo of Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. In a number one contendership four-way match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, and this is probably where Stokely was on commentary, of course, FTR's Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler defeated the teams of Jet Speed of the Jet Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight, Jurassic Express, Jack Perry and Luchasaurus, and the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. Of course, FTR will be the next team to challenge for the AEW World Tag Team titles, is currently held by Brodito, Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito and Brody King. And then in a one-on-one match, John Moxley of the Death Riders and Kyle O'Reilly of Paragon / the Conglomeration went to a double countout. Then in a quarterfinal match for the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles tournament, to crown the first AEW Women's World Tag Team, the Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart and Sky Blue of the Triangle of Madness faction, defeated Queen Aminata and Jamie Hayter at just over 10 minutes. And then in a number one contendership four-way match to see who would next face AEW World title. Samoa Joe will be once again getting a shot at the title as he fended off the challenges of Bobby Lashley of the Hurt Syndicate, Hook, and Ricochet. So Samoa Joe will once again be challenging Hangman Adam Page in the near future, coming off of excuse me. Anyways, that's all we got for AEW. Now let's look ahead to tonight's Ring of Honor Club tapings, or Ring of Honor Club rather. And on Ring of Honor Club tonight with Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentary coming from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. Sorry, I gotta go off camera here one more time, guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Something was caught in my throat, so I had to go get some water. But anyways, so let's talk about what's on for tonight's Ring of Honor. So Billy Starks is set to take on Aaliyah James. In a 6-man tag match, Dalton Castle and the Outrunners, Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum, will be set to take on Logan Cruz, Leroy Shogun, and Tyshawn Perez. Commander and CMLL star Mascara Dorada, with Alex Abrahantes in their corner, will be taking on the Swirl of Blake Christian and Lee Johnson. Aaron Solo and QT Marshall will be in tag action, taking on the Don Callis family members of Lance Archer and Rocky Romero, with Trent Beretta in their corner. In another mixed 6-person tag match, the Grizzled Young Veterans of James Drake and Zach Gibson team up with Isla Dawn. They take on the premier athletes of Arya Davari, Tony Nese, and Story Denali, with Mark Sterling in their corner. And the main event we'll see in a pure title proving ground match, Lee Moriarty will be taking on the challenge of Alex Zane. If Zane can win or draw in the match, he will earn a shot at Moriarty's pure title. So now with that, we will, of course, now move on. Now we're kind of all caught up with all the wrestling wrap-up here. So now what we will do, of course, is we will get ready for today being Thursday, October the 30th, 2025. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Niche history. So 1996, 2005, 2005, and 2010. All right. So first off, I'm going to head back to the year 1996, 29 years ago today. On this date, 29 years ago today, in 1996, the date 1996, the fifth issue of Big Bang Comics from Image went on sale on this date back in 1996. It sold for $2.95 and 32 pages. Featured a number of their main heroes there, apparently. So on this date, 29 years ago today, the fifth issue of Big Bang Comics from Image Comics went on sale on this date back in 1996. So now getting ready to move on to the next piece of each history. So we move ahead to the year 2005, 20 years ago today. On this date, 20 years ago today, in the year 2005, over in Japan, the team known as Shoten, Masahiro Chono and Hiroshi Tenzan, defeated Shinsuke Nakamura and Hiroshi Tanahashi to become the new IWGP Tag Team Champions. So on this date, 20 years ago today, over in Japan, Shoten of Masahiro Chono and Hiroyoshi Tenzan defeated Shinsuke Nakamura and Hiroshi Tanahashi to become the new IWGP Tag Team Champions. And of course, 2005 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. There's also on this date in the year 2005, 20 years ago today, 20 years ago today, Chicken Little premiered in movie theaters on this date back in 2005. Chicken Little is a 2005 American animated science fiction comedy film produced by Walt Disney Feature Animation, released by Walt Disney Pictures, loosely inspired by the European folktale Henny Penny, known in the United States as Chicken Little. In this version, the title character is ridiculed by his town for causing a panic, thinking that the sky was, quote-unquote, falling. A year later, he attempts to fix his reputation, followed by an unexpected truth regarding his past being revealed. So, now let's see, some other notes here. Let me just go back here real quick. According to this, Disney's Chicken Little premieres in theaters from mixed to negative receptions by fans and critics. So, anyways, so that happened 20 years ago. Now moving ahead to the year 2010, 15 years ago today. On this date, 15 years ago today, back in 2010, the following animes Actually, the following anime movies, in fact, I believe these were films, right? Let me just start. Yeah. The following anime films premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 2010. The fourth Broken Blade #4, the fourth in the Broken Blade, the Broken Blade 4, the fourth film in that franchise, and Heart Catch Free Cure, the movie fashion show in Paris from Toei Animation. So Production IG, Z-Bex says Broken Blade 4, Toei Animations, Heart Catch Free Cure, the movie fashion show in Paris. Both premiered on this date in Japan back in 2010. All right. So with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here with more niches tomorrow. And don't forget this Sunday, I'll be joined by Rick Piper from Cross Comics. We'll be taking a look back at, we'll be taking another trip down Comics History Lane. Going through books that went on sale from Timely Comics, what we now know as Marvel, from July 1940. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.